There are 3 layers that you can be feeling familiar with someone, that you might be confusing with feeling in love with them and making it mean that they might be the one that you're meant to be with, etc., clouding your judgment. So I will go into these layers and what you can do to bring yourself back to your center. This is the 3rd episode of a 7-day series about what you confuse with being in love, what are the healthy bases of a relationship, and how you can navigate your feelings to make better aligned decisions with your life path. I am a psychoalchemist and a woman who is in love with falling in love, sharing insights from a lifetime of having crushes since I was 3, falling significant amount of times in love since I was 16, and having met quite a number of soulmates, twin flames, and etc. So here's what I've got to gift to you on your journey today. Counterclockwise, I will be starting with the spiritual level that you might be feeling familiar with someone. Yes, the soul encounters, the karmic links, the past life and other lifetime connections that come into your reality. This type of connections, interactions, are usually meant for your life path to have an exchange with this person, a learning, something that have been a topic between you two since beyond this lifetime. And when you meet this type of person, that is a soul connection, you will feel an immediate sense of familiarity, a sense of ease, and almost like speaking the same language with them, being in the same place with them, where you would feel so much more alone with others, where you are not understandable. With these kind of people, it flows like magic and feels like it is destined, it is meant to be. Because it is. It is destined that you guys would meet and exchange an experience where you both part with some soul growth, with releasing certain things, with moving beyond certain things. It does not automatically mean that you are meant to be with this person for this lifetime, just because there's this significant sense, the special sense of them being different than anybody else. Truth is, you will encounter such people fairly often, especially if you're an old soul. And with so many of them, you will feel a different kind of uniqueness that sets them apart from everybody else. Because they are. Like your brother is different than your sister, and this friend is different than the other. All of them are unique and special to your soul, and your soul recognizes them. Sometimes what you had experienced with this person in another lifetime might even be that they murdered you, and you end up being lovers in this lifetime to finally resolve whatever emotional glitch you had from that experience. Or perhaps you were indebted to them somehow, that in this lifetime you're giving it back, fulfilling the circle. When you have such an encounter, you can bring your attention to the question, what is playing around in this interaction? What emotions is it bringing up in me? What qualities is it calling out from me? And that might give you a clearer indication of what that exchange is meant to be. And once the lesson is learned, your feelings about them will change. It's not that you will not love them in the same way, but the interaction will not feel as alive as it does in the beginning, where it was destined to be. The sequence of things in your life that are happening and this encounter is in alignment. It is synchronous. It is not random that they come into your life at this time. So whatever your intentions were, whatever growth you were seeking in your life, this interaction might be the thing that is serving that. So understanding that lesson particularly will take you a step closer to setting yourself free from bondage to that relationship, to that interaction. Of course, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't be with them, or at least be with them for a little while so that you can, in an intense cohort, receive this learning growth for your path that your soul has intended. And it might be the case that they are who you agreed upon to spend this lifetime with as well. That is within the realm of possibilities. And for me personally, that have been a case with one of my soulmates, yes. But to discern the difference between this meaning that and having to be like that versus there being the choice to go in that direction is the key element here. So that you don't paint your eyes with fantasies. The second type of familiarity is an emotional one. So again, you might have not ever met this person before, but how they behave, how they act, the values, the qualities they embody in their life, in their aura, resembles very much your primary caregivers, your childhood home feelings. What does that mean? So in a previous video of your childhood wounds bleeding being the reason you're feeling like you're in love, we went into the specifics of how we perceive love subconsciously as the feelings we had in our childhood home from 1 to 7 years old, from the relationship we had with our mother and father, or the relationship they had between each other. It defines our subconscious perception of love. And when you meet someone that is in the same color, texture, tint with which you know so deeply, that was your first experiences coming into this world with the people that you were trusting the deepest, whether or not that's your conscious feeling right now, underlying that the inner child who only had your primary caregivers to trust feels like that is the right thing. That is what's meant to be. So when someone comes along and embodies similar qualities with your father, your mother, how they treated each other, whether that's positive or negative, you will feel drawn. You will feel like, oh, this is right. This feels special. This feels significant. And of course, this kind of encounter still can be a soul encounter, like an agreed upon encounter. So it has the layers of that as well. Any encounter we have in life has the layers of soul contracts. But more specifically, coming back to the emotional level, with this type of interaction where you might confuse this with falling in love, you can bring your attention to the familiarity of them with your parents. See what qualities of them reflect whichever parent of you that you had more problems with, who's usually the one who will attract you in more. What qualities they have in common, what behaviors they have in common with this primary caregiver of yours that you could not process truly with your capacity at that age. But apparently you encountered this now, you are at the capacity to process it. The same things that happened back then, but in a new light, in a new expansion of compassion in your heart, so that you can heal the aspects of you that got stuck there, that you can bring parts of your soul that was glitched, that remained fragmented in those experiences back into now. Or just recognize that, wow, they're actually just making me feel like how my very loving parent made me feel like special, cared for, and now I am associating all the other positive things, being accepted, loved as I am, being taken care of in whatever this case situation is. All of that rest of the picture with the primary caregivers into a projection of togetherness with this human who reflects them to you. So identify the common points, recognize what is it meant for you to resolve some issues, patterns that you couldn't before, to access them, to be triggered in the same way. Or is it just recognizing, wow, these are very special needs and values of mine that I am actually looking for in relationships. I want these qualities in a person to be present so I can feel safe, I can shine, I can be me, whatever. Like taste them, recognize them. You can be with them if you want, if that's the choice. But again, it does not mean that that's the person who you're meant to be with. That's a person who's reflecting you what you're enjoying. And when you know what you're enjoying, when you know what is it that you are choosing, desiring, you can more consciously allow that, invite that into your life. You can more consciously eliminate the people who are not capable of offering that to you. And you can have your power back, the power of choice, the power of will, than to make it automatically mean I've got to be with them. This is the best thing, the closest thing I've found so far to what feels like home, love, true connection. No, this is the thing that you found closest to your first relation. And that is open to change, inform, updates as well. You don't have to settle into that. And if it's far and above what you're experiencing with others, then you can be inspired by that. And finally, the third type of familiarity that you might be confusing with falling in love is physical familiarity. And this has two different ways that it can happen. One is very basically that you have been encountering this person quite often or during a long period of time, like someone who is your colleague from your neighborhood, school, whatever, that you have grown accustomed to them. Your subconscious feels like they recognize them and feel safe around them. The feeling of safety for our psyche is very primal, very elemental, that overrides so much more other things, so many of our other needs, that just because of that familiarity and the underlying trust it gives, even though maybe it's that person is not someone who you can actually trust, your subconscious will feel like they can trust them because they have been seeing them for so long. That's a familiar ground, that's a predictable ground. You haven't died with their existence, so it must be safe. It is safe for your subconscious. That is one big reason, especially in this world, that we don't get to feel safe so often, so many of us at least, because of the relationships we had as with our primary caregivers not being emotionally satisfying, because of the circumstances, the life that surrounds us that obligates us to fight for ourselves in this individualism era. When you feel that underlying feeling of safety with someone, it's like a weak spot, it's a vulnerable place that you might just find yourself melting into them, gravitating towards there just to receive that sense of safety. That's how ads work, by the way, like the advertisements that you see often, like again and again and again. And they're not actually intending that you would get their product in the first sight, because that does not work like that. The more you see it, the more you feel accustomed to it, the more you think, I know this is trustable, I want this is already meant for me. And you are sold, you buy, because you have been grown accustomed to it through repetition. And that's one aspect of physical familiarity we might have our mind interpret as a meaningful connection, attraction, togetherness that we should be making something more out of. The second type of physical familiarity is quite biological. This happens especially if you had like sexual intimacy with a person, your mind gets wired to have their presence mean safety, love, connection, because of the hormones that our body secretes when we have that sexual intimacy with them. The oxytocin, the serotonin, the dopamine, we quite literally get addicted to them beyond just habits, like a neural pathway of our mind with someone who we just keep seeing over and over again. Here, our whole neuroendocrinal system is working against our wise judgment to make them into something special, because they have become something special for our body, for our most strongest embodiment, our densest part of our being. Now feels good around them because that intimacy made it so. Our breaths, our heartbeats get synchronized when we're around each other so easily. We're attuned to them, and that has a very strong role. Our biology, our primal senses draw us closer to someone, has such a strong impact on our decision making because it has such a strong impact on how we feel. And we are beings who are driven by our feelings. That's why I'm wanting to bring attention to all these nuances in the attraction, so your mind has the resources to discern the actual cause of your feelings with what your mind might want to make out of it, what your mind want to give it as the meaning of it. What you can do in this either situation is realize first the impact of this familiarity on you, whether it's psychological safety or biological, like endorphin, dopamine inducing mechanism. Acknowledge that. Then you have the opportunity to replace that with something else that can give you those same feelings, that dopamine, that oxytocin. Go hug someone, go to a contact improv dance and be in connection, be in touch with people. So it will reduce the weight, the focus of being pulled into that person, needing that person specifically to feel those things, and spread it around to, wow, this is a feeling, a resource within me that I am able to experience on different fronts with people I love, with people who are open to this outside of this context. I can replace what this person nourishes me with. And this is, of course, I'm suggesting you do this only if you're not actually wanting to pursue being in a relationship with person. Because just because there's that biological pull, it doesn't mean you can have a sustainable relationship, doesn't mean that you're compatible, doesn't mean that they're necessarily good for you. They just make you feel happy because they activate pathway in your biology that you are not able to have activated in other ways. But being repetitively subjected to someone, if that's making you feel psychologically safe around them, and that's the reason you're gravitating towards them, can you open up more spaces so that you are in contact with other people also so often that the gravity, the weight from there spreads around? Then you can have like a equal ground to make more wise decisions. Well, among these options that are available, is it this that I'm wanting? Because when you don't have the options, you have no choice but going there, even if it wouldn't be your choice if you had another option. You know what I mean? To sum it all up, you have the opportunity to evaluate what kind of familiarity you're feeling with a person that you're confusing with being in love. You're confusing it with the reason to be with them. Determine which kind of familiarity is it? What is it making you feel? And how can you have those feelings, those needs met in other circumstances, that it gives you the option to be with them or without them equally? Because only a relationship that you choose from that space of freedom, of options is going to be a one that you stick by, that you are going to follow through it because it has been your choice. Not because there wasn't anything else available, but because that's what you wanted to be with and you decided to be with among all the other possibilities. And I don't say don't have relationships until you get to that point, of course. We all do, step by step, evolve into that state of, no, I actually choose to be with myself if it's not that kind of relationship that is even greater, even more expansive than how I am with myself, instead of feeling lonely and just wanting to be with someone and going for the best choice. And going for the best choice, settling, is what we will be talking about in the next episode. So make sure you subscribe and follow and send this to someone who really needs it.